Hello, everyone. Are we ready to get started? Okay. I am here today to talk to you about motivation and productivity in writing. And I'm going to hopefully entertain you, hopefully keep you awake, because I know 3:30 is not the ideal hour. And I'm going to share a lot. This reminds me of when I first started giving this speech, writing about productivity and motivation back in the day. And I work a lot with Michael Anderle, and I said, what can I tell these people to help them? And he said, nobody screwed up more than you, Noffke. Just tell them that so that they can fix their problems. Anyways, I just wonder who's over there laughing at me. Okay, so I'm Sarah Noffke, and first of all, you want to know why I'm up here, this giant toddler telling you about productivity and writing. I'm a USA Today bestselling author. I have written 108 books as of today, and not that I finished it today, but pretty close. Of those 108 books, I would say probably at least 100 of them have hit the bestseller list. Thank you. I almost paused for that. I was like, wait for it. No, I never expect the applause. Believe me, I'm sometimes floored by it. I write urban fantasy, I write science fiction, I write nonfiction. I've written game lit. It's not like I was supposed to be doing that. I just like to make mistakes, as you will see evidence in my speech. I'm just wondering, there we go. Thank you very much. I want to have that up here. So there's nothing to writing. All you have to do is sit down at the typewriter and bleed. And every single one of you feel that and you know it. So we today are going to talk about writing, and we're going to talk about motivation and productivity. And the thing about it is I am qualified to tell you how to write a book and how to write it fast and how to get through roadblocks because I can write a book. I can write it fast, and I can write books that sell. And I want that for you too because I love other people's successes. That really, really drives me. So at the end of this, we're going to leave about 10 minutes for questions, just depending on how fast or how slow I talk. I mean, it depends. What I like to do with these speeches is I like to focus on the emotional and mental roadblocks that you all encounter when writing. I had the privilege and honor of being at 20Books Holland, and Steve Higgs, you may know him, he is amazing and prolific. Was talking about motivation and productivity, and I was also talking about that, and I was afraid that we were going to be talking about the same thing, but it turned out that he was talking about specific hacks, like wake up early, multitask, dictation. I love those, and those are amazing, but sometimes, and you may find yourself there, we're not ready for the hacks because we haven't gotten through the emotional and mental roadblocks that keep us from writing. And I have found that so often with writers, and even when you get past them, new ones occur. Because I've heard imposter syndrome, what's that? Like 1,000 times this week already? I've heard of doubts, the scripts that run in your head that keep you from doing the things that will get you to write the books. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking about the emotional and mental roadblocks. But I've got news for you all. I'm always the bearer of news. And this doesn't have to be bad news, it's just news. The news is that when you showed up, and I don't mean to Vegas, and I don't mean to this conference, and I don't mean to this conference room, I mean to this world. And this is not a spiritual conversation, I don't go there, because we all believe in something different. But when you showed up to this universe, you signed a contract. And I don't know who with, it doesn't really matter. It can be Buddha, it can be God, it can be angels, it can be AC/DC, I don't really care. You signed a contract, and that contract said, and I know for a fact every single one of you did it, because your butts are in those chairs. I know for a fact you signed a contract that said, I will fulfill my creative genius. And here's the caveat. If you do not fulfill your creative genius, if you do not write the book that you signed up for when you came here, nobody's going to come. They're not going to collect some debt. No lawyer's going to come to your door and sue you. But guess what they are going to do? They're not going to do anything. You're going to fill it. In that, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night. You're not going to be able to go to sleep. You are going to feel an emptiness. And I know that because I was there. I have told this story many times on different stages about how you feel empty when you don't fulfill your creative destiny. So I want to remind you all that you showed up here and you signed a contract. And this contract said, I will write a book. I will write 10 books. You do not want to see my contract. I talk about past Sarah a lot and how much she's a jerk. She signs me up for all sorts of things, like Pilates classes at 8 o'clock in the morning that I can't cancel out of. She signed me up for like 1,000 books before I showed up here. But your contract's different, and you have to figure out what you need to do in order to fulfill your contract. And I understand that I am using this as a way to explain what you need to do. But I think that it's really important because when we hold ourselves accountable, then we really get places. And I've heard my friends talk about this in different ways, and they say, you will say things to yourself that you would never say to somebody else. You will break promises with yourself that you would never break with other people. And I think that if we think of it as a contract that you made, I am going to fulfill my creative genius, then you will, and you will soar. But when we don't, the opposite happens. Depression, all sorts of other things that make us feel horrible. So I love the idea of being up here on this stage because I like the idea of pushing you all to fulfill your creative genius. Get out there, write the books. All right, so I'd like you all to meet Debbie. I had way too much fun with the AI, I'm sorry. So in this speech this year, I wanted to focus on problems and how to get through problems. Because when we get through problems, they go away. When we go around problems, they're still there, right? So I used to work in corporate America, and there was inevitably a Debbie. I am so sorry if your name is Debbie. Raise your hand, don't raise your hand. I will buy you a drink, though, if you do. All of y'all are raising your hand. You're like, well, I'm all Debbie. Okay, you are a man. Your name is Jess. Okay, I'm sorry. Karen got way too much, abuse the last couple of years, so I could not make this Karen, right? I had to make it Debbie. So, Debbie, sorry. I just had to pick a name. Anyways, my point is that when I was working in corporate America, there was always a Debbie. Call her Susan, call her Peggy, I don't care. And Debbie was the person that you worked around. She was the problem. She was the person that you did not want to put your expense reports through because she was going to reject them. She was the person that was going to nag you, or I tried to on this slide, the AI wouldn't allow me, but her middle name was going to be like, my middle name is Lazy. You know Debbie. So my point is what I want us to start thinking about this year is working through our problems, because when we do that, we're not working around Debbie. And we used to do that in corporate America, and when we would do that, we only made more expenses, more time, more processes, more things that we had to do in order to work around Debbie. So, we're not working through Debbie anymore. Instead, we're going to work through our problems. And this brings me to the scope of my speech. And this year, I have decided that I was going to talk about things that mothers say. And the reason that's going to be our construct for getting through our problems. And the reason that I came up with this idea was I was writing a book. I'm an author. You can follow me on Facebook or something. I don't know. Just kidding. And I was writing a book, and I had the sidekick put in things that mothers say. So every scene, he would be like, you know, shut the front door, I'm not air conditioning in the neighborhood, were you raised in a barn? If you keep your face like that, it's gonna, y'all are shaking your heads because you remember the things that your mother said, right? And so I got this epiphany, and I was like, the things mothers say are, firstly, smart, and they also resonate with us. And so I really wanted to focus this year on things that mothers say. And then I had to think about my own mother, but my own mother did not say things that other mothers said, because she was really, really weird. And y'all laugh, but the truth is, like, I would go to like a friend's house, and like their mother would be like making me dinner, and her name was Peggy or Sue or Debbie, and I would just be having dinner because it was food, and I didn't really get a lot of food at my own house. I'm getting to a point here. Anyways, and she would look at me, and Peggy would go, your mother, she's not like other people, is she? My mother was a Southern debutante that was raised from old money that believed in old things like women don't work. And she was the weirdest person. I guarantee you, y'all are all strange because you're in this room and you're writers. But she was the weirdest person anybody ever met. And so the things I'm going to share with you today are things that my mother said, but A, I don't want your pity. I'm not sitting here going, oh, I was abused. No, no, no. I don't want you to think that I came from this horrible place. She made me into who I am. And I really like that person. And also, I believe that the universe saw my contract, said, what? She wants to write 1,000 books? She's going to need a whole lot of fodder. Let's give her the weirdest mother in the entire world. And that's what they did. And I can tell you stories for days about my mother. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I hope you enjoy it. But my caveat is, and I talked to my friend Jess about this, I don't want your pity. Don't look at me and go, oh, your mom, like, you know, oh, she didn't feed you. I mean, kids can feed themselves. I mean, come on, right? I've thrown cereal on the floor for my daughter and been like, here, go get it. Go get it. I had the flu, okay? You've all been there, right? All right, so stories about my mother, stories about how we can get through our problems. We are not working around Debbie anymore. We're going to get through our problems, and then we're going to fulfill that contract, and you're going to fulfill your creative destiny over and over and over again, and you're going to make, I don't know, whatever you want, $1 bazillion, $1,000, be up here on the stage. This is not an actual photo of me. A, my nose is not that perky or cute. My daughter's is. She's freaking adorable. And that girl needs Botox, just saying. Okay, so story number one. Whenever I was growing up, I grew up in East Texas. And I know none of y'all can believe that because I don't have an accent. What are you laughing at? Okay, I grew up in the backwoods of East Texas. And you couldn't just get to school. You had to go across 2 bridges, across 2 lakes in order to get to my school. And because I lived in such the backwoods of East Texas, the bus couldn't get to my house because the road was too steep, too narrow, too potholed. Oh, it emptied into the lake. That's literally where it ended. Oh, you didn't stop. You ended up in the lake. So I had to walk to the bus. The bus stop. I had to walk to the bus stop every single day. And I mean, it could have been a quarter mile, a half, you know, kids. For all I knew, it was a bazillion miles, right? I mean, it's uphill both ways in the snow. It felt like forever. And I was like 8 or 9, like this kiddo. And I had to walk by myself because I grew up in East Texas, so my siblings obviously had all quit school. My poor sisters. They're like, what? What did she just say? They don't watch this. Anyways, so I had to walk to school on my own, or I had to walk to the school bus. And because I live in East Texas, there's wild dogs. And the wild dogs would chase me to the bus stop. You know, these wild dogs were just like, fresh meat. You know, they don't even care. They're just like taunting me. And so I would run to the bus stop, and I would get on the bus, and there would be the bus driver. I still remember him. It was bus number 2, and it was Mr. Mixon. And Mr. Mixon wore a green cowboy hat, not cowboy hat, baseball hat. And I would get on the bus, and I go, Mr. Mixon, the dogs are chasing me. And he'd go, get on the bus, Sarah. I got to listen to the football game. And I would get on the bus, and then I would get off the bus, and then I would have to run home. And it was just excruciatingly terrifying, right? And so I remember one day I decided, okay, I'm going to tell my mother about my problems. I'm going to go through my problems. There are no Debbies. There are no workarounds. So I go to my mother after I get home from, well, I had to wake her up because it's 3:30. She was up all night watching Masterpiece Theater. I mean, come on, people. We don't expect her to be up. So I wake her up, and I was like, Mom, I have a problem. I just sound like a whiner. I'm sorry. So I say, Mom, I have a problem. And she goes, hold on a second. I've got to smoke a cigarette. And I said, okay, because I'm a nice kid, and I'm scared. And so when she's awake and has had her cigarette, I then say to her, Mother, there's dogs, and they are chasing me to the bus stop and back every single day. And I think, because I'm a dreamer, that she's going to say, oh, honey, my sweet little angel, I will walk you to the bus stop. I will drive you to school. She did not. Instead, she said, hold on, follow me. And so I walk out, and I walk around the house, walk out of the house, and then around the house, which I thought was weird because she was wearing a nightgown and smoking a cigarette. So she walks around the side of the house, and she picks up a walking stick, as one would keep against the house in East Texas, right? And so she picks up this walking stick. Please, no, I do not make this stuff up. And she goes, when those dogs come after you, I want you to carry this walking stick with you. And I want you to shake it at them and go, no, dogs, no. And I just stood there for like a full 30 seconds. And I was like, what? I was like waiting for the just kidding. And I was like, you're not going to take me to the school? You're not going to drive me? You're not going to do anything? She goes, Sarah, does anybody know why I hate my name? Sarah, if I take you to school, if I walk you to the bus stop, those dogs will still be there. When you go out to play, when you go to the bus stop, when you go to the mail, wherever you go, those dogs will be there. So I want you to go through your problems. I want you to figure out how to make those dogs run away from you. Now, my mother was being freaking lazy as hell because she did not want to get up. She did not want to get dressed. But in her laziness, she taught me how to go through my problems. And so what I ended up doing was every morning I would go to the side of the house and I would pick up the walking stick and I would walk to the bus stop. And when the dogs came there, I would be like, no, dogs, no. And they would go, no, ma'am, we do not want that crazy today. And they would run away. Because may have been the tiniest thing you'd ever seen, but when I had a giant walking stick, I looked terrifying. And so they ran away. So again, we're going to relate this all to the end in that I want you to start going through your problems. Figure out what it is that you could shake a stick at. And I have thought of that my entire life. What can you shake a stick at? Because when we make our problems go away, then all of a sudden they're not there. And we can charge forward. I have another story. And it is about my mother. I got 3 stories. Okay, this one is about Barbados. And there was this one time that my mother decided that she wanted to go to Barbados, but not with me, obviously. And so she left me at home with the dogs. So she goes to Barbados, and she's with her friends, and she's walking through the streets. I told y'all already, my mother was the weirdest person you ever met, and y'all are really weird. I love that you don't get offended, or you can't. Anyways, so she's walking through the streets of Barbados, and this is in the 1990s, so this is before cell phones or any of that, and there's men that are following her, and she knows that because she's walking, pause, turn, they pause, and they're like, you know, that kind of thing, when people stalk people. I don't know what it's like to stalk people, but that's what I think they do. So my mother is realizing that she's getting followed, and she keeps walking, and she keeps getting farther away from civilization, lights, people. And so she does the one thing that she can think of, and when she gets to a dead end, she turns around, and she does the weirdest dance she can think of, and she starts at the top of her lungs singing Feliz Navidad. And like the dogs, the men go, "No, ma'am, we do not want to deal with that crazy." And so they run off. And I love that story because she faced her problems. And yes, she could have called for help or she could have done anything else, but she always learned ways to make her problems go away. And I know this is a very abstract idea that I'm talking about with you, but when we have problems with writing, we tend to circumvent them. And so I'm going to ask you to start thinking about these stories and then how you can use them to fix your problems. All right, I got another story. I got plenty of stories, 1,000 of them, apparently. But first, shameless plug time. When we embrace challenges, we're in a better position to conquer them. Oh my gosh, was that written by me? Okay, I was looking for a quote that was about what I wanted to talk to you about, and I just realized I wrote it, so I put it in the thing. But that's what we're talking about a lot here, is going through our problems and embracing challenges. So often, and I've talked to a lot of you today, so often I hear you talk about all of the problems and getting around them. And that's what I'm really focusing on is let's go through them and let's figure them out. All right, last mother story. This one I really, really like. Maybe your problems aren't real. And this one to me really, really resonated. And I told my daughter this one. She has a horrible time sleeping, and she's always scared at night. I was always scared at night to go to sleep. In my defense, I grew up in the backwoods of East Texas. Do you know where the Texas Chainsaw Massacre happened? It was in my backyard. We had 20 acres just sitting back. There's so many dead bodies. And it was so backwoods that nobody could hear you scream. And there was lots of screaming going on. So I would wake my mother up in the middle of the night. Poor woman, no wonder she was asleep at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She's like, "You just woke me up every night." I'm not sure that she'd like my impersonation of her. Anyways, so I would wake her up every single night, and I would be like, "Mom, I'm scared. I watched a bad movie, something scared me." I have problems. We all have problems with writing. And I remember one night she came to me and she said, "What's going on?" And I said, I'm hearing noises and I'm scared. And she listened and she said, Well, yeah, it's the wild dogs. They're chewing up the sticks. They're trying to get rid of your freaking walking stick so you have no defense. But after that, then she told me a really wonderful story that has stayed with me ever since. And the story is that when she was a kid, 1,000 years ago, she watched a movie that scared her. I think it was The Body Snatchers, but I don't remember because kids don't care about things that their parents say. And it was the old version. Anyway, she was like, I watched a movie. It was like The Body Snatchers or something. And she said, it scared me so bad I couldn't sleep. And I was like, wow, like nothing scares this woman. And anyways, so she says, so what I decided to do was the only thing I could think of, which was watch the movie again. And I was like, that is stupid. And she said, no, I was trying to desensitize myself. But what ended up happening was that one of the monsters stood up, and I saw a zipper in the back of his costume. And I realized the monsters weren't real. My problems in life were not real. And I know that it's a movie, so you're gonna go, well, duh. But you know what? So often, our problems aren't real. And I'm gonna go through another example in just a minute about how our problems aren't real. And that so often we invent all of these things that keep us from obtaining our goals. And that's when I lead us into the most powerful part, which is maybe our powers are our superpowers. Our problems are our superpowers. I have a client, and she called me the other day, and she said, I have an hour-and-a-half commute in the morning and an hour-and-a-half commute at night. So she was not able to write her book because of kids and work and everything else in this commute. And I said to her, it sounds like you got 3 hours where Billy's not annoying you, where your husband's not asking you to do anything, where you can focus. The best time that I do my brainstorming for my books is when I'm doing my workouts, because my body's working, just like you would be if you were driving, and my mind can think. And so I come up with the best ideas. But also, in the car, you could dictate. You could listen to books that are in your genre. You could listen to books about your craft. You have 3 hours that you could be doing something and turning it into your superpower instead of going, my problem is that I have a 3-hour commute. I'll tell you a couple of quick other stories about that. And this is not praise on me. Again, I'm not looking for pity. I'm not looking for praise. It's just the stories that I have to tell, which is one that back in the day, and I've told this story on the stage before, I used to be a single mother, and I didn't have any money. All I had was a gym membership that cost me about $39 a month. I believe in investing in my health. And it included 2 hours of daycare. And so I would put my daughter in daycare for 2 hours, and I would ride on the treadmill. I wrote 6 books during that time. And it was my superpower because it was the things I could do. I also achieved a master's degree. I didn't have any college money for a master's degree. My mother had actually spent my college funds on roses. I wish I was lying about that. Literally, she spent all of it on roses. But anyways, my point is that I didn't have any money for college, and so I ended up getting a job with a university, and the university paid for my education, and therefore I didn't have to pay the $80,000 for that graduate's degree. And then I didn't have a computer. Your problems are not your problems, they are your superpowers. I came in every single weekend where nobody could bother me. No one was in the office, and I used my work computer in my cubicle next to Debbie, and I finished my graduate's degree. Think about your problems as we're going through this, and think about how they are your superpowers. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. And what I want to talk about is bills. Bills can be your problems. So we've got little Sarah with a perky little nose, and she's going through her problems. She's not going around them. She's going to go through her problems, and she's going to fulfill her contract, and so are you. And so you have your bills. Well, you know what? Back in the day, I had a lot of debt. And I literally was like, if I can be very successful, I can clean out this debt. And then if I can be even more successful, I can make $10,000. And that became the motivator that I needed towards success. If you have a boring job, you can go, oh, I freaking hate my job. Or what I used to do, because I hated my job so much, was I ended up writing on my lunch break. I hated my coworkers too, because they were Debbie. Kids are the biggest superpower you can have. I never started writing until I had my little girl. I started writing when she was 6 months old, and it was because I looked at her and I said, I want you to fulfill your dreams one day. And then I looked at myself and realized I wasn't doing it. So I started writing a book, and then I started publishing a book, and then I started making the book successful. Family and friends I put on here because so often they can be the problem in that they don't believe in you. If they don't believe in you, do not work around them. Do not decide that you are not going to fulfill your creative destiny in that contract that you signed when you came out here. Instead, I want you to not listen to them. I'm not asking for you to not be with your family, but I will tell you this. No pity, I am the biggest disappointment to my mother. I make my own money. She literally called me one time and she said, when are you gonna drop this act? When are you gonna get a husband that can actually support you? I don't do this because my husband can't support me. My husband is a very successful sci-fi writer, and I love him dearly and wish he was here. But I do this because I love it, and I'm fulfilling my contract. Find people that support you, and they are here in this room, I guarantee you. Also, you know, there's money, there's ability, there's past. I want you to start working through your problems. Stop working around them. When we do that, they will chase you like wild dogs, like men in Barbados. That's what got you. But you're asking me, how? How do I do that? I went to this a little too soon because I actually have another story. So don't look at that slide. Just look down at the ground. Look down at the ground. Ha ha. I'm in charge. I did. I have another story, and I had a slide for this, but I didn't know how to put the slide up because the slide is literally called No Plan B, and I felt like I was giving them like family planning seminar. No plan B for you guys. I was like, I can't do that. I don't even know how. Anyways, all right, so no plan B. And the no plan B is actually a story about my father. And my father is this amazing man, and we have this amazing relationship. Because my father and I met when I was 19 years old, and we have worked really hard on our relationship. He's a Marine, and he is just amazing. And he's taught me to be strong. Anyways, so I remember calling him whenever it was 2018, and I was really struggling with this author business. And I said, Dad, I got 3 months of income left. And then I have to get a job, put Lydia in daycare, that's my daughter, and I have to really make this work. And I have to commute into the city. And I just have to give up this author thing because it's not working. I only have 3 months left. And he said, Sarah, what I'm hearing you say is you've got 3 months to make it. And that was the most pivotal time in my life because I recognized right then, if you have a plan B, you will need it. There's a fly. It's not me, I don't smell. I'm sorry. If you have a plan B, you're gonna need it. If you do not have, this is a faith-based business. I guarantee it. That's why I started it with the contract. If you do not believe in yourself, if you do not believe that your books will make it, they will not. If you have a plan B, you will need it. If you have a plan B, you're going to need a C and a D and an E. But my father told me, you got 3 months to make it. So that first month sucked, and I was scared to death. And the second month was hard. And the third month, I made a livable wage. And that was 2019. Since then, I have made 6 figures every single year, and I have grossed well over 7 figures for LMBPN every single year for the Buffont universe. You have to believe. I'm not telling you to quit your job. Figure out what works for you, but believe. Because if you don't, nobody's going to believe for you. And that's where the actual slide that was next comes. So you're asking how. And I'm going to ask you to live in the deep down. And the deep down is one of my favorite analogies. I have it above my desk, and it says, live in the deep down. And here's what it means. I saved this for last because this is my last time at 20Books Vegas. And I want to deliver the message that works the best for me. So you're wondering, well, how do I know what to do? How do I know the way through my problems? How do I know the right genre? Remember when you say things like, well, deep down, I just feel like this is what I should do. Deep down, I just feel like this is a genre for me. Deep down. Live in that deep down. When you are there, that is the guttural feeling inside of you that says, yeah, that's the right thing. And that's going to tell you how to abandon plan B, because you don't need it. You only need to live in the deep down, and the deep down is going to take you to plan A. And we're going to finish with a guy that I really, really respect, because he does talk about the deep down, but in other ways, and he talks about how he feels if something feels right. And Neil Gaiman, I took his master course, and it was really, really good. But this is important. Finish what you're writing. Whatever you have to do, finish it, finish it, finish it, finish it. And Stephen King says this, and like I said, this is a faith-based business. And Stephen King says, you have to remain faithful to what you're working on, no matter what. I have clients recently that go, well, I'm working on 3 projects. Stop. Work on 1. Be faithful to it. You would not have more than 1 wife or more than 1 husband. Stay faithful to it, because you're going to do so much better with it. Finish, finish, finish it. I don't have a lot more to say except for try to find out what your problems are. Identify them. Don't run from them. Identify them. Shake a stick at those problems. Sing Feliz Navidad at those problems. Do dances. Find the zipper in your problems. Do whatever it is that you need to do in order to go through them and turn them into your superpowers. Because I truly believe that it's all about framing. It's all about the scripts. The quickest little plug, and it's only because I love your success. I don't care so much about my business as much as I care about yours. But I have started a business because I am limited on time, and I'm taking a limited number of clients. And if you want to kick in the pants, I freaking love kicking you guys in the ass and making you write the books that I know will fulfill your contract. That is the greatest reward, but you have to give me money for it, sorry. So you can go to my website, sarahnoffke.com. You can send me an email. I literally am taking a very limited number of clients because I wrote 10 books this year. I got to keep writing books over and over and over again because my contract says something like 1,000 books. But I want to help you. And it's little things like I've told you that I had with my client where I was like, your commute is not your problem. It is your superpower. I want to help you however I can. Anyways, I'm around all week, and I have loved talking to you. I have 2 minutes for questions, if you have any. If you don't, then please.
What if you're stuck on identifying your problem and you've been in a loop for, say, 4 or 5 months? Do not kick me.
That doesn't make any sense. You can't identify what your problem is, so what are you not doing?
I'm not writing.
Okay, so that's the problem. So what are we going to do about it? Why are you not writing?
That I don't know.
Do you not know, or do you not want to know?
Well, I mean, I'm not writing because I'm not writing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, I will be your kick in the pants. I do not sugarcoat things. You all have the ability to do this. Don't you think?
Yeah, I do.
Do you not have the contract that you have signed that you need to fulfill?
Well, I do have it now. I didn't know about it until today.
She got the biggest freaking laugh. What the hell is that?
No.
Get up here. I just don't believe it. If you're not doing it, you have to show up. You have to do what Ernest Hemingway said. You have to sit at the typewriter and bleed. It is fucking hard, but you have it in you. What are you telling yourself that says that you don't?
I don't know. I just get up and walk away from the computer.
Okay, so I have to strap you down. All right.
No, thank you.
Title of your sex tape. I'm sorry. I've been watching too much Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
All right. I learned a lot from you last year, and I'm going to work very hard towards writing tonight.
Let's talk, because what I'm hearing is you're just not showing up. And that's the hardest and easiest thing. Let's do it.
Okay.
Thanks.
On your changing it in 3 months.
I feel like you right now.
I know. On your changing it in 3 months, it's just hard to believe you can change it in 3 months, because, you had to do something massively different. Like, I started my books way too cheap, and so I know that's part of the problem, but it's not like I can get everybody to change and buy, spend 3-4 times as much. So do I just need all new people, or, I'm not trying to be specific, but it is kind of vague to say, in 3 months, what did you do? Just in a nutshell.
I changed the way I thought. I changed the scripts in my head. My scripts used to say things like women can't make money, or I can't make money, or this will never work, or he doesn't want me to succeed. I changed everything internally, and it changed everything that I was doing externally. And when we do that, the price of your book doesn't even matter. Does that help?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm at the end of my time, but I would definitely like the last question, if that's okay. You're in charge.
My problem is more a matter of a lot of external things going on. Like, I had a couple of family members that I love dearly who basically divorced me this year. Children who decided that they were never speaking to me again. And my brain is stuck on that track.
So how can you turn that in your favor? Because that sounds like fodder.
Yeah, well, I've written a bit of Substack and stuff like that, but that doesn't pay bills.
It can. If that's the message you're telling yourself, then you're right, it won't.
Okay, but it's not what I want to be stuck on. I want to be back in
I'm just
my
simply saying,
wonderful fantasy books and sci-fi and fun.
You can put those problems into fantasy books. And I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying your problems aren't real. I just think that sometimes we have to reframe things. So we can definitely have more conversations about this. I would love to.
Thank you.
I hope that was helpful. Thank you all so much. It was really great to spend this time with you. Bye.